Hello and welcome to back to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it very, very much. We are always glad to welcome back into the program Trooper Russ Brennan. Trooper, appreciate you being here.
Always a pleasure.
All right. You know, I know 4th of July is coming up. There's a lot of things people really need to be thinking about and be cautious of this 4th of July.
Look, it's the same with every holiday, right? We just want to make sure that everybody gets home safely, makes the right choices behind the wheel. Traditionally, 4th of July, there's a lot of parties, festivities that go on, which can lead to people making poor choices. Last year in 2021, across the whole state, there was 261 fatal and injury crashes investigated, right? That's just the crashes alone. But there was 9 fatal crashes, all right? 3 of those involved some type of impairment. And there was 451 people injured. And that was just in a 3-day weekend, or basically a Friday to a Sunday last year, right?
Wow.
So you can
That's
see
right,
where...
because the 4th was on a Sunday last year.
Yeah, this year is on a Monday.
Right.
So you can see where it kind of lead the potential of some other stuff happening. In fact, even just this past Sunday, there was a fatal crash on the Leeville Bridge. A vehicle crossed the center line, hit an 18-wheeler head on. That passenger in that vehicle ended up passing away, and we suspect impairment was involved in that one, right? So, look, the worst thing that we can do as state troopers is go knock on the door in the middle of the night, and that's what we want to avoid, right? We want people to make right choices. So far this year in 2022, we've investigated 25 crashes, resulting in 29 deaths, right? So we want to keep those numbers low. We don't want them to keep climbing on.
And that's multiple deaths in some of those crashes, right?
Yeah,
It was 25 crashes with 29 deaths.
Exactly, yeah. And so, look, like I said, that's the worst thing we can do is go knock on the door. And look, basically, same safety tips every time there's a holiday or any weekend or whatever you plan to do. If you are planning to consume any alcohol at all or consume any types of drugs, have a ride home. Whether it's a designated driver or you plan on spending the night at that person's house, whatever it may be, right? Just don't plan to get on the road if you can help it, right? Whether you call a taxi service, a Uber, call a friend to come get you, a designated driver. If you have a designated driver and you're chosen to be, if you draw that short stick and you have to be the DD for the night, keep your word, right? We hear stories of people, the DD, they're going to drive us home, but yet next thing you know, the DD starts drinking, right? So you don't ever want to let that happen, right? Keep your word. That way you make sure that everybody gets home safely. We can prevent tragedy from happening. Also, never get into a vehicle with somebody who's been drinking, right? You shouldn't be trying to figure out how you're getting home towards the end of the night. Should be something you should think about, before you even go out. As you are traveling the roadways, make sure you are wearing a seat belt. It doesn't matter what position, whether the front seat, the back seat, the middle, it doesn't matter. Make sure you have that seat belt on and make sure that you have it on the correct way. We see a lot of times people wear that shoulder strap underneath their arm. They say it irritates their neck or something like that. But the problem is that seat belt won't perform the way it was designed if you're wearing it not the way that you're supposed to, across the shoulder, across those hips. It can actually cause more injury. So make sure that you're wearing that seatbelt. Make sure that your kids are properly restrained. If you have a car seat, if you have any questions about that, you can come by the State Police Troop. We're certified child fitting stations. We definitely want to make sure that everybody's properly restrained inside the vehicle to keep everybody safe at all times, best that we can do.
Yeah, and some of those are family gatherings. Some of those times where people are going to get together and they're meeting up with the family. We need to make sure that all of the kids, no matter what their age is, that they are restrained the proper way, and that they're not getting into a vehicle. It's sad when sometimes the kids got to become the parent to say, no, Dad, I'm sorry, I'm not riding with you. You've been drinking.
Yeah, and like I said, it's unfortunate. Sometimes that does happen. That does happen on the roadways. That's why we want people to make the right choices before they even start to go out and drink, right? That way we can prevent those situations from even happening. Because look, crashes are unexpected. Nobody plans to get involved in the crash. People won't wake up in the morning like today's the day. And even if it's just a minor fender bender, right? Somebody who weighs, I did the math today, somebody who weighs about 180 pounds, if they get into a crash at just 35 miles an hour, that's about 1,200 pounds of force on their body. Right. And that's not even, and that's not even highway speeds. That's just 35 miles an hour. And so people say, oh, I can just hold on, hold on to the steering wheel. I'm not going to go, flying around. I don't think anybody can bench press or lift up 1,200 pounds worth of weight. Right. So even at low speeds, you have all those forces on you. So that's why it's so important to make sure to wear that seatbelt. Because even with an airbag inside the car, it works with the seatbelt. The airbag does no good if you're not wearing that seatbelt that holds you inside the vehicle, inside your seat.
Right. It can't protect you unless you're in the right position.
Exactly.
The seatbelt holds you in that right position.
Exactly. And like we said, all positions. People that ride in the back seat, those people, if they're riding not restrained or not wearing a seatbelt, they're actually 3 times more likely to kill the front seat occupants if they're not wearing a seatbelt in the back. I don't know. There used to be, there's a lot of misconceptions where people don't think that they have to wear a seatbelt in the back seat of a car or any type of vehicle. But no, state law, everybody, every seating position, front, back, middle, it doesn't matter. They have to wear a seatbelt inside the vehicle.
And that's the reason. Some of those studies that people don't realize, you know, we've talked about it quite a few times here on the show, where you become a projectile.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And when you're in a force of even a 35-mile-an-hour force, if you're unrestrained, that's 1,200 pounds of pressure
Yeah.
moving towards something else.
Yeah. And that's people inside the car. That's cargo. A lot of people that might be traveling, they might have maybe some barbecue pit supplies in the back, a propane tank, whatever, right? You get into a crash, all those loose items inside the vehicle, that can also be thrown around too. So make sure that you do strap those items down. You know, if you can put them inside the trunk, whatever you can do, right? Maybe somebody's going to play golf. You throw those clubs across the back seat, you get in the crash, those clubs can fly forward, right? So just try to do what you can to kind of minimize those objects flying around. Another thing too, with 4th of July, there's a lot of fireworks, and there's a lot of tarps still left on roofs also. Right. Just throwing that out there is just be mindful where you're popping these fireworks at. You don't want to, you know, one that's still lit to land on somebody's roof that has a tarp. Next thing you know, your neighbor's house catches on fire.
Right.
Right. So we want to try to, in addition to the roadways, we want to avoid these tragedies and incidents from happening even within the neighborhood.
Right. And if people see an impaired or a driver, if they need assistance, they can always go to Star LSP, right, which is star 577.
Yep. You can always call us on the phone or whatever, Star LSP, star 577. If you're traveling on the roadway, you need some assistance or whatever it is, or you see an impaired driver, please give us a call. We'll try to get somebody out there.
Trooper Ross, always appreciate your time.
Not a problem.
Thanks so much. All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular segment. Don't go anywhere. A lot more Bayou time when we continue.